one of the things that I like to point out is way back in the day, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, all of these, famous people that we hear about, we Da Vinci, we talk about and we applaud that, like, oh, they were an inventor, but they were also a scientist, but they were also a philosopher, and they also were interested in religion, and they also were, part of like human rights, and they whatever. Like, we celebrate that these people had these like huge interests back then, but if you meet someone like that today, you're like, "Bye, you need to really fucking pick a lane." Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today. I'm going to structure today off of a post that I read on Instagram a few days ago, and I'm actually going to read the text to start up our conversation, and then we'll dive in. So, a little bit of context. I was hanging out, waiting for my husband to do some work with IT. We had to stop by his work on the way out of town last weekend to get some documents printed for our builder. And it wasn't going well. The printer was down. So I was like, well, I'll check out some things on Instagram. And so fascinating. The universe has always worked this way, that there will be themes in my life and there will be random sources of insight that will show up precisely when I suppose, need them, when I'm most ready for them, and when they will strike me in the most profound way. So this was one of those moments. I'm just hanging out, kind of like swiping through a couple things on the gram to find out, what's happening, what have I missed? And then I read this, and I really love this. So here it goes. I think a lot about how we as a culture have turned forever into the only acceptable definition of success. Like if you open a coffee shop and run it for a while and it makes you happy, but then stuff gets too expensive and stressful and you want to do something else, so you close it, it's a failed business. If you write a book or two, then decide that you don't actually want to keep doing that, you're a failed writer. If you marry someone and that marriage is good for a while and then stops working and you get divorced, it's a failed marriage. The only acceptable win condition is you keep doing that thing forever. A friendship that lasts for a few years, but then its time is done and you move on, is considered less valuable or not a real friendship. A hobby that you do for a while and then are done with is a phase, or alternatively, a pity that you don't do that thing anymore. A fandom is dying because people have had a lot of fun with it, but are now moving on to other things. I just think that something can be good and also end, and that thing was still good. And it's okay to be sad that it ended too, but the idea that anything that ends is automatically less than this hypothetical eternal state of success, I don't think that's doing us any good at all. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this this moment that really stopped me in my tracks. This idea that if we stop doing something, it must mean that it was a failure. When I read this and when I reflected on this, and then I had the joy of like having like a 2.5 hour drive to really think about this, it really had me reminiscing over my life and going, that's so true. When I had a design business in Winnipeg and that closed because I moved. So that's like hard to go, well, that was a failure because I changed provinces. It's hard to keep running a business when you're 1,400 kilometers away from where your clients would be. But when I had my design business in Calgary, and after 6 years, I no longer felt the joy in doing the work, and I decided to make a pivot and do something else. I really had this sense of that it was a failure, that I failed at it, that this, because it didn't grow into what I had intended it to be, it meant that I was a failure and that I had done something wrong. And I mean, that seems silly, but it is what we are socialized to believe. All right, my love, I trust that you are getting just so much value out of today's episode, but it would be remiss of me if I didn't very quickly poke in here and just remind you, if you have not yet done so, to get on the Insights email list. It's a juicy space where I share some really amazing insights and transmissions that you literally will not get anywhere else. Click on the link in the show notes to get on the list. When we think about relationships, when we think about like the post highlights, friendships and hobbies and interests that we don't do anymore, that we don't have contact with anymore. Oh, it's a shame. It's a shame that we don't still talk with that person. It's a shame that we don't still do that hobby. It's a failed thing. It's something that, like, wouldn't it be great if we still did it? But the question is really this: what if the amount of time that person, that business, that job, that hobby, that interest, the amount of time that existed in your life was all that it was ever meant to be there for? I have friendships that have lasted for many, many years. And even over the years, those friendships flex in and out in terms of, how much contact we have day to day. I have a friend that I've had for a very long time that sometimes we, are in contact almost every single day. And then there could be years that go by that we see each other very rarely, but we still love and adore one another. But that doesn't mean that the time in between that we're not seeing one another, that this is like a failed friendship, or that I'm a bad friend or that they're a bad friend. I've had people in my life, and if you've been around the planet long enough, and guaranteed if you're listening to this podcast, you've been around the planet long enough because you're probably an adult. You've had people that have just naturally flexed in and out of your life. Sometimes that's painful when they leave, but that doesn't necessarily mean that was the wrong thing, right? When we're dating, we have this belief. I always thought this is so funny, that this social shame about marriages ending, and this, how do I explain it? Like a backlash almost of belief where people they'll take, the 50% divorce rate and go, see, all relationships are doomed to fail. Well, technically that is true, because even if you stay married your whole life, one of you is going to die before the other. So that relationship is going to end. Does that mean it was a failure? My husband has been married before. My sister has been married before. Both are now divorced. Both had different experiences in those relationships. And it's difficult to process the ending of something like that, especially depending on the situation. But that doesn't mean that the relationship itself was a failure. And it doesn't mean that because it is no longer ongoing that you are a failure. I mean, all of us can point to relationships that we see in our social circle that we're like, yikes, those people should not be still together. But because they are determined to stay put, because there's this sense that if they aren't together anymore, it's a failed relationship, they stay together. But there's nothing about that relationship that shows it as being a success, right? It's just kind of silly. And yet that's how we approach it. And I don't get it. Also, if I just got louder in your ear, it's because I adjusted my microphone, so I don't have to like hunch over. It's turning into the Hunchback of Notre Dame here. And I don't want to do that. That's not great. Doesn't feel good on my back. So I want to touch on this very specifically. I know we've talked about this a lot on relationships, but I want to touch on this very specifically as it comes to, let's frame it on the context of business or a job right now, because I think that that is really, such a powerful place for us to lean into this week. This idea that we need to be doing one thing, one career, one business, one focus for our whole life, or we are flighty, ditzy, drifty, not committed. The idea is silly. One of the things that I like to point out is way back in the day, I don't know when they existed, okay? So don't like send me hate mail of Amy, they were around at this time. But like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, all of these, famous people that we hear about, we Da Vinci, we talk about and we applaud that like, they were an inventor, but they were also a scientist, but they were also a philosopher, and they also were interested in religion, and they also were, part of like human rights, and they whatever. Like, we celebrate that these people had these like huge interests back then, but if you meet someone like that today, you're like, wow, you need to really fucking pick a lane. Because like, what are you? I don't know how to describe you. I don't know where to put you. Are you an inventor? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you an employee? Do you believe in like building an accounting business, or do you want to be someone who does marketing, or like what's the jam here? Why are you doing all these different things? And that dovetails into this very restricted thinking that says you need to do this thing forever. Otherwise, it is a failure when you end it. And by extension, you are a failure for not having made it successful all the way through. Now, the only acceptable, and this is fascinating, there's two actually, there are only two acceptable ways to exit something when it comes to career or business and have it not seen as a failure. The first one is you have a business and you sell it for a profit. Yay, you have succeeded. You really are living the dream. You're like doing all the right things. You built this thing and then you sold it. You made a crap ton of money. Wow, this person is so successful. Or from a career perspective, you worked this career, you like really plotted through, you spent 30, 40, 50 years in this career, and you've retired. You've retired and now you can like pursue whatever interests you. You are so successful. You had this whole career. Amazing. Those are the only two ways that we determine you are not a failure when something ends. But that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that as humans who have such amazing, capable bodies, who can do so many things, who come with these brains that are so intricate and interested in so many things, who come from, like whatever your beliefs are, but like, let's assume that we come from this cosmic realm into this human experience. It's so stupid and ridiculous to think, well, we can only do one thing. We only came here to have one career, one job, one purpose, right? That's the only thing we're here for. It's laughable even to say those words out loud, and yet that's somehow how we've come to believe that that's true. It doesn't make any sense. So why I'm passionately explaining this into my microwave for you, what the hell is this thing called? A microphone. This is maybe what happens when I sit in the kitchen. I like have the microwave out of the corner of my eye, and apparently I get these things confused in my brain. Yay, life. Why I want to really double down on this particular messaging today is I know for myself, having that clarified gave me, oh my gosh, so much. I realize that I'm saying the same thing twice, but like clarity, it gave me such powerful insight that I was like, wait a minute, that's actually so true. I hadn't thought about it that way. I've been feeling bad about, XYZ. I've been feeling like, that was a very flashy way of saying Z. I've been feeling like I need to really focus. I've been wondering what people are thinking of me because I have this interest and then this interest and then that interest. And I, can't seem to focus in. Marie Forleo has a term that she coined called the multi-passionate entrepreneur. This is somebody who has more than one interest, more than one desire that they are pursuing from a business perspective. This idea that we only have one thing that we came here to do is just silly. And I wanted to record just a quick, brief little episode for you this week to highlight this for you, to share with you the clarity and the awareness that came through for me and offer the option for you to pick up the gift as well. And to take this and reflect on your life and reflect on what's the messaging that has been sort of ruminating in your brain lately. This is a very strange period of time in history. Okay, we're not going to get into politics and anything, but it's just weird. I feel like in 10, 15, 20 years, maybe 100 years, who knows, somebody's going to look back at this kind of decade and go, the fuck was happening with humanity, right? It just seemed like everything was kind of on fire all of the time. And part of that is the news cycle. Part of that is politicians. Part of that is there's a big awakening and an up-leveling happening to the collective. I've talked about these things in previous episodes. But I also think that part of that is somehow over the last, I'm going to say 50 or so years, there has been this continuous restricting in the experience of life. This continual focusing in. You either are a stay-at-home parent or a career person. You either are an entrepreneur or you are someone who has a job. You either love dogs or you love cats. You either love children, want to have them, want to just think they're most amazing and give up everything for them, or you don't and you're some selfish kind of self-obsessed person, right? It's this real focus on that we only seem to have one thing. We can have long-term dreams. That's okay. As long as that long-term dream somehow dovetails into what we're doing right now. I have a friend who is an amazing landscape architect. They had a job as a landscape architect for a number of years, and over time they did it perfectly. I just am in such awe of them. They did it perfectly. That they had this job and then they built a business while they had the job and then moved from the job into the business and now has this great business. They did it perfectly. They also did it in one career. And that is acceptable to us, right? We see that as, oh, what a beautiful success story. They had a job, they've decoupled from the 9 to 5, and now they have a business doing what they love. Well, that's wonderful. And honestly, I can't celebrate them enough. I'm just I'm so fucking proud of them. However, that's not the common story. That's not what it's like for most of us, because most of us are going through a whole variety of different experiences. I want to relate this very briefly as it comes to money. If you have had this cycling experience where you went through a period of financial restriction, perhaps you carried a lot of debt and you paid that all off and you're like, yeah, I got it. I did it. I'm so excited. And then, life happens as life keeps doing. And you find yourself down the road back into carrying debt. It can feel like you really have fucking failed. God, I know I certainly have felt that way. I've felt that way multiple times over my life about a whole variety of things. But in hindsight, what I inevitably usually come to, and sometimes it takes a long time, I need more time to pass before I can have this realization, but often what will come through is, oh, okay, here I was thinking I was this huge fucking failure, but also I learned a tremendous amount of things. And that experience of that debt, of that job, of that business, of that weight, of that relationship, pick anything, of that car, I had a car that was a real teacher. kind of an asshole, if I'm being very honest, that it has gifted me these amazing lessons and actually shaped how I approach life today. And it doesn't always do it well, right? Sometimes we come through an experience with more baggage than we want or need, and it colors how we approach things in the future. But other times, it also can be really helpful. Case in point, here's a super good example. I mentioned last week we talked about money and clarity, and this podcast offer or interview that I was looking into that like then came out of nowhere and said it was going to be a paid interview. In past, I never would have had the nerve to ask for the statistics. I would have just felt like I had no choice but to pay this dollar amount, even if it didn't feel good, even if it didn't feel in alignment, even if I had no fucking idea what the impact was going to be on my business. But I had to pay it because it wasn't okay. I'd already put all of this time and energy in talking with this person. And so I just had to pay the money and do the interview. But that was going to change the energy and how I approach the interview. But what had happened prior to this is I'd done a number of podcast interviews, including a paid spot. And what I found very fascinating was the paid spot actually had the least amount of reach and impact for my business. I thought that was really fascinating. And I learned from doing this paid spot that actually, because then I saw the results afterwards, I was like, ugh, I felt like a failure because I hadn't asked for more specific statistics. There were some that were listed as part of like the payment page, but I didn't know how what's the word I'm looking for? Jesus, the word will come to me. How recent it was. Thank you. I had reasonable in my head and that wasn't it. I didn't know how recent those statistics were. I didn't know the size of that person's email list. I didn't know how this person was going to be promoting the podcast. Like when I have a guest on my podcast, the guests that come on my podcast so far are not paying to be on my podcast, but I believe that it's part of my job as the podcast host to really promote the episode. So perhaps you are listening today as a result of the Abby Rose interviews, right? So maybe that's what brought you into the Manifesting Millions podcast. Perhaps you saw some of the videos that I had on social media and you were like, oh, let me go find out more. And then you liked the content and you started following the podcast, which thank you very much for doing that, by the way. Love having you here. And also, I see it as my job to promote that podcast. So each episode in that particular case, it's not always the case for all of them, but in that particular case, each episode had 3 different reels that were posted promoting that episode, not including, the stories and like it gets shared off on my LinkedIn and like all the things. And that's my job. It's my job to promote that. I promote it to my email list. I promote it to, in as many places as I can possibly think of. Because the way I look at it, that's my job. I want to come back because I feel like I've lost the thread a little bit. But coming back to that, this learning, this experience of this other podcast spot, now it has to be paid. Well, now I have different questions. That came as a result of this previous experience that kind of felt like a failure. But it felt like a failure because we really have been marketed this idea that unless it's a raging success right out of the gate, it's a failure. I'm going to end this episode on this note. There was this really amazing, actually, I might just bear with me. I'm going to fill the space here very quick while I pull up this email because I read this email the same day and I thought this was so fascinating. So I'm just going to read this little section and we're going to close off the episode on this. It starts in quotations, hold the faith. And the person writing the email goes on to say, would you judge me if I said every time I see that, I think, fuck off? Because here's the thing. Anyone who's willing to stand in the in-between of vision and reality, anyone who's brave enough to chase the unseen, anyone who's already on the field playing the game and taking more losses than wins is already holding the faith. Faith is not and never was the issue. You have faith, you have vision, you have heart, you have desire. I remember those years stuck watching other women pass me by. The ache of wanting to feel momentum too, wanting to have had figured it out already, wishing I had caught my stride. I ached for it. I'm in my third big season of the in-between. I've been trying to flip my business model to honor my promise, and we have had a lot of success, but more failure. It's not been as easy as my expanders made it look, per the usual. My list of what doesn't work is sexy and long. This email carries on. I'm just going to set my camera down so I don't have to drop it. This email carries on to talk about how much this journey of their business growth sure has generated 7 figures, but it generated 7 figures and a huge amount of failures. And what I find so frustrating as an entrepreneur, as someone who's been growing businesses in various different ways, this broken messaging, really that's what it is, this broken messaging that it needs to be a success pretty much out of the gate, which is also, and this is what is like super funsies, also paired with this messaging of like, well, but like don't expect it to be a success right out of the gate because like you're going to have to test and try and do things. But there's this like, it's like 2 sides of a coin and both sides kick you in the fucking ovaries, right? Both sides are like, well, it should be a success right away. You should be making money or it's a failure, but also don't expect it to make money right away because you have to like grow your audience and grow your trust and grow your visibility and grow your brand and blah, 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 blah. Like so it leaves us feeling like we're constantly behind, like we're constantly doing it wrong and constantly actually in pursuit of learning and knowledge and insight. And it's this exact idea that my husband and I were talking about on the road after I shared with him the energy of this post, and I was so fascinated by it. This idea that if we don't do it forever, that it's considered a failure. And it was fascinating to hear his thoughts on it and have him really bring to light, you know what? Yeah, there is this idea that it's easy is usually promoted by somebody who's selling you something, which it is. And also, it's a very black and white view of life. So I feel like today went like on a couple different rabbit holes, but I really trust that the gold that was supposed to come through did come through today, and that you have received some really interesting insights and awareness. And if so, I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram or comment on any of the latest posts on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you socialize and want to like connect with me. Drop me a comment or send me a DM. I lost my train of thought there. I think it might be time for a snack. What do you think? I want to leave you with this today. Really consider the fact that there are experiences that are in your life for some are going to be there forever and some are not. And you might be surprised which ones are going to be there forever and which ones are not. I know certainly in my life this is true. There are people and experiences in my life that I'm like, so it's still here, huh? And then there are other ones that are like, oh, that's so interesting. I thought for sure that would have been around for the rest of my life, but I guess that's not the case. So here we are. And just ask yourself whether or not, actually, let's ask ourselves something a little bit more powerful than that. How about let's ask ourselves just how much this perceived idea that if you don't do something forever means that it is failed, and possibly by extension that you are a failure, how strong is that idea in your life? And are there areas in your life where it's maybe having a stronger pull, right? A more magnetic connection that maybe would benefit from a little bit of light and love and grace? Because perhaps, my love, you're hanging on to something, a sense of failure, a sense of letting someone down, a sense of doing something wrong that is just getting in the way of your enjoyment of life? And if that's true, well, ask yourself why you're hanging on to it. With that, my love, I thank you so much for listening to this episode. And please, if you enjoyed it, share this episode out. Let's get the word out there. And I will see you next week. Bye for now. Tell me if this resonates. You're a driven, high-performing professional. You've achieved some measure of success. But there's this knowing, this sense, this quiet calling from within that says there's more waiting for you. It might be in your career, it might be in your relationships, in your health, your personal fulfillment, but you just know that there's something more that you want to crack open, and you're just not sure how to get there. Imagine what could happen if you were to work with a coach who really listens deeply to what you're sharing, who sees your unique brilliance and reflects it back to you and helps you create expansion in every area of your life. Why my clients choose to work with me is many, many things. Among them being that I bring over 2 decades of experience investing in coaching and therapy and personal development so that you get to benefit from proven tools and deep wisdom. You will feel truly heard and understood, and this is something that my clients say over and over is one of the most profound and impactful parts of working together with me, and is where their transformation really begins. I guide you to reframe your challenges, to unlock new possibilities, and to ultimately manifest the life that you are craving to live. My coaching isn't about giving answers. It is about asking the most powerful questions and sharing with you wisdom from living in the trenches so that you can discover your own truth, direction, and power. You can expect a very safe, confidential space with me. There's no judgment here, just support and insight and practical strategies tailored to you. Whether you want to advance in your career, find more joy in your day-to-day life, deepen your relationships, work on your health, our work together is personalized to your goals. This is not about quick fixes, my love. I am all about lasting change that feels authentic and empowering. Picture yourself 6 months after we work together, clear, confident, living a life that feels in alignment for you, that feels magical and powerful, and that you just wake up every day like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is my life. That's what we can accomplish together through the power of coaching rooted in empathy, experience, and the deep belief in your limitless potential. If you're ready to invest in yourself and create real, lasting expansion, it's time that we work together. This is your invitation to step into a bigger, more fulfilling life, no matter where you want to grow. To find out more, you can reach out to me by email, amy@daretobegin.net, or hit me up on the DMs on Instagram. If you're ready to say yes right now, then head on over to amyvanmeel.com/next level and secure your spot today. I'm so excited to work with you, my love. I can hardly wait to see what we create for you. Let's go. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following @AmyVanMeel or visit my website at amyvanmeel.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.